accuses them of being racist.
So just
he also accuses them of being racist when they are a non-majority police department. There's nothing racist about the New York City Police Department. The last time de Blasio did that, he got 2 cops killed, and that's what led to their turning their back on him. There was a riot in Baltimore, and de Blasio, like this other crazy communist, went out and said, "Oh, New York is racist too," and a guy came up from Baltimore and he shot 2 detectives, assassinated them 4 days later. And that's why the cops turned their backs on that guy.
All right, check.
These people are dangerous and they get people killed. And you know who gets killed? The black people get killed as a result of it. Yes, no? You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
All right, let's all talk at once. Cenk, you go. You go.
Okay, so a bunch of misnomers there. First of all, it was the highest voter turnout in a Democratic primary in a long time. I was part of the AOC campaign. We were counting on low voter turnout. Not in this case. The tide has changed. The younger people, like Geraldo said, are voting for change, and middle class is voting for change. So you guys play word games. But now to the main question that Piers was asking. Look, there's some of his policies that I don't agree with. I don't agree with defund the police. I wouldn't have had government-run grocery stores at the top of my list. I just wouldn't have, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just wouldn't have prioritized it. So free buses, that's super interesting. I want to see how it works. These are not my policies, but the Democrats in New York elected him, and so let's let him give it a shot, right? So in terms of, defunding the police, again, let's be careful, and he is careful. He at least says it the right way. I don't like the phrase at all, but what he's talking about is moving some portion of the money towards social services. So, okay, you could say, I don't want to try that. That's fine. You've got a general election coming up. But a lot of his economic policies are for change. That's the third issue that I mentioned, Piers, in the beginning. And so overall, I'm for change. I'm against the establishment. So if this brother wants to try the grocery stores, he wants to try free buses, etc., let him take a shot at it. We've already seen what the establishment has to offer, and it's nothing but pulp. It's driven this country into the ground. I don't want another Cuomo. I don't want another Adams. I want change.
Well, it's really, let me just, I want to ask Geraldo actually first, then come to you, Lindy, because...
So, yeah, a lot of people get on Cenk's case because, for a lot of different reasons. I mean, some people from the far right, they think he's too far left, and people from the far left don't think he's left enough. I think that was just a very reasonable take. I mean, fair enough, right? It's like you have like these 2 goons on the right side of the screen here, Giuliani, and forgive me, I don't know who this woman is, but she's like shaking. He mentions like free buses, and she shakes her head like it's like the end of the world, and Stalin is going to come back. People, there are dozens of countries and cities and municipalities that do free public transportation, and actually is fairly stimulative economically. I mean, when you give people access to transportation, they can make it to different parts of the city. They can get new jobs or change jobs or things like that. So just for one, I mean, everything there was fairly reasonable, from Cenk's perspective, sort of to bring like a calming voice to the discussion finally.
It's interesting, actually, that what Cenk just said, because the conservative writer Rod Dreher likened Mamdani's win to Trump's. He said New York left-wing voters, quotes, lashed out against what they regard as a failed liberal establishment, electing a charismatic populist who promised a clear break with the past. We on the right can shake our heads and laugh at how dumb New York liberals and progressives were to choose a candidate as politically inexperienced and radical as Mamdani, but don't miss that this was also a referendum on the Democratic Party itself. And, I do remember, Geraldo, when in 2015 Donald Trump came down the famous elevator saying, I'm going to run for president, everyone mocking and laughing and saying he's got no experience, is a ridiculous candidate, quoting all sorts of incendiary things he'd said before, blah, 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 blah. And he won. And he's now won again. So is it mad for the Democrats to actually go for a young, kind of their version of Trump?
I think will, in New York at least, mostly be affected by people's wallets, by people's pocketbooks. There is no way that the middle class, the upper middle class, the strivers, the hard workers, the college-educated business creators, there's no way that they're going to tolerate more tax, more income tax. And to think that you're going to have free transit and free food and free housing, free everything. There's no such thing as a free lunch. My goodness, haven't we learned? There's no way to have socialism in a city that needs that needs the vibrancy of Wall Street to create the job.
It needs the vibrancy of Wall Street. Listen to the framing from these people, man. It needs the vibrancy. You mean the vibrancy of the fraud by business model that a lot of these people do, the insider trading, the fraud, the robbery, plain as day, the lobbying with billions of dollars to construct policy in their favor. Yeah, we need those people desperately, Geraldo.
In a city that needs that needs the vibrancy of Wall Street to create the jobs. It's not just the brokers it's the grocery guy on the corner of Wall Street. It's the Uber driver, et cetera, et cetera. If you take the tax base of New York and attack it anymore, it will be a failed city like so many others. And it's the last thing. We have to embrace the police. We have to embrace the job creators. We have to try to lower taxes in the richer, whiter neighborhoods so they don't go to Scarsdale and other communities, upscale communities that don't tax nearly as much. And in terms of the cops, my goodness, I voted for Giuliani and Bloomberg before him. And the change in the city over those 5 terms was extraordinary. It was a functioning, workable, integrated city where the goals and the dreams of socialists were realized with the fruits of capitalism. So I think that this kid is way, way off the mark. But I also believe that if all these people run on independent lines, as promised now, Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, he could win.
Yeah.
You could have the first young Muslim, mayor of the biggest Jewish city in North America. It could happen, and it could happen particularly if the sore of Gaza continues to deep.
Yeah, I think you're right, Lindy.
By the way, wouldn't that be beautiful, guys?
Well, actually, it would be an amazing thing. It would be an amazing thing, and I actually thought that. I actually thought, Cenk, that the way Geraldo framed it earlier, that hundreds of young Jewish people, male and female, who actually do not share the view that of their parents and grandparents, that you have to have just blind, devoted loyalty to Israel, particularly if its government is behaving in the way that it's currently behaving in Gaza.
And they voted for a Muslim mayor. And isn't that a beautiful thing about America? I mean, isn't that a beautiful thing about America, that we don't care about religion, that young Jewish voters and young Christian and Muslim voters vote for a Muslim candidate because they believe in his economic message and his message of justice? That's what America is supposed to be all about, that we forget about this race and religion stuff and vote on the substance.
You talk about him implementing change, but all of his promises are lies. When we can go through and debunk every single one. For example, he says he wants to offer free buses, but guess what's going to happen then? If you don't charge anything for buses, there's no funding for transportation coming in. So how are you going to maintain your infrastructure?
With taxes, how do these people get a platform, man? First of all, who is this woman? How did she get a platform? And those are my 2 questions. Why is she even here?
Fleet. And if you control rent, the supply of housing is going to decrease and the quality will decrease as well. And most importantly, though, who's going to pay for it? When the governor of New York herself, Kathy Hochul, vowed that she would not be raising taxes. So every single thing he said was actually a lie. Either he knew it or he doesn't. I don't know which is better. Is it deception
or not a lie?
Well, I just told you, I gave
Lindy,
you 3
it's not a
examples of things that could just cannot happen because the governor is not raising taxes. He can't operate in a vacuum. Okay, not everyone is a communist. You have to partner with other people in the government and collaborate. It's a whole of government approach.
So, Lindy,
it's not a microcosm.
You're saying you disagree with his approach, but to say that it's a lie doesn't make sense. No, he really does want free buses, and he has a plan for free buses. Now, you can say, hey, I don't think that plan is going to work, and I think it's going to have negative consequences. Well, good news. Let's hope we're about to find out, okay?
Well,
and maybe you're wrong. Maybe the free buses totally work out. And in fact, there are different ways to finance it.
I think he went into the campaign knowing that he was offering false promises to the New York people. Another thing that I find extremely alarming is saying that he said his ultimate goal is to seize the means of production. That is something straight out of Animal Farm right there. It has no place in the United States of America.
He certainly has. He's got a lot of quotes on his track record. I want to pivot just before.
If he did say that, that's interesting. We'd have to get more context for it. Obviously, that's a direct quote out of the Communist Manifesto. I don't know. I'd have to research that on my own. But I don't know. These people are just a little bit belligerent for me, for my liking. Obviously, he's not lying when he's making these promises. When Mamdani is making the promises that he's making for the policies that he wants to accomplish. Obviously, there just has to be, a fight on the other end to get it done. If, like, let's say he wants to do free buses, or let's say he wants to do these rent freezes, or raise taxes, and then people on the other end, Democrats or Kathy Hochul are stopping him. Well, then he's going to have to fight for it. He's going to have to play politics, strong arm, fight for the things he wants, and make his policies the popular ones, get the people on his side, and make it so that other people have to come along to his ideas, right? So you just have to fight for it. That's the thing. It's winning is easy, governing is harder. It's just ridiculous to call him a liar. It's just another version of a smear, I guess. But Cenk providing the calm, reasoned voice in the room for once, and we definitely appreciate him for that. Let me know what you guys think about that conversation, about the perspective, next mayor of the United States. Hey, could be president someday. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about that. Like the video, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.